Alright, I wanted to do a really quick video on how to model knurling. It's like that weird, if you've ever seen like little metal tools, like this weird little pattern on it. So the version I'm going to show you today is not designed to be smoothed. It's just sort of designed to exist and look like knurling in a low poly state. And probably your object is going to be high enough poly after this where it's not going to be super noticeable that it's actually pretty low poly. So what I'm going to do is I'll just set the subdivisions up to maybe, I don't know, like 60-ish in a cylinder, and then I'm going to add enough subdivisions. So I guess there's sort of different ways to do this. If you want very long knurling, you would want each face to kind of be like a rectangle shape. If you want something that's a little bit more of like a perfect-ish diamond or like a sideways square, you'd want them to be square. So I'm just going to run with square for now. And what we're going to do, I'll just delete the top and bottom of this, personal preference. What we're going to do for this is go into edge select mode, select all of the edges on this object. This also works for only some of it, only some edges if you have like a pre-existing model and you want to add this in. But grab all the edges, and this part's really important. Go up to create, if the computer loads, sets, and then quick select set. And just name it whatever. You know, this is the only thing that's going to be in the scene, so if I was doing multiple of these, obviously name it better. But then what you want to do is actually go in to, there's sort of two different ways to do this. I'm doing the whole object, so I get to select the whole object, or you can select the faces. And in this case, you just want to select all the faces that you want to have this like little knurling pattern on it. Go up to Edit Mesh, and at the very bottom, there's an option for Poke. This is one of, I think, the few Maya settings that doesn't have a whole lot of settings to it, but there are, you know, other options you can play with. I usually just sort of leave them at the default and go ahead and hit Apply. And you'll notice that what this is going to do is basically put a little X basically in between every face. So everything that used to be one poly is now 4 quads. And the topology of this is like pretty weird. Also, just for the record, like I said, no with the lag. Oh, no, okay. So you can do this on only a few polygons. So I've just selected this little blob, and then if you do edit mesh, poke, oops. Well, this is already poked, but it's gone through and it's poked it again. And actually, you can get some really weird and interesting sort of, I don't know if this qualifies as a fractal, but you can get some really weird patterns by doing that. Anywho, so back where I started. What we want to do now is actually delete the original edges. And you'll notice, like, if we click this, we double click it, it's not selecting an edge loop, because it's basically just hitting this giant star and being like, nope. And that's why we made the quick select set. Before I actually go and delete those faces, for the record, you can do some really weird stuff with this if you, you know, extrude this and scale this in. You get some really strange little diamondy patterns if you're so inclined. It's kind of like an interesting, fun texture. I don't really know what I'd use it for, but it exists should you want it. And for the record, I'll show you this again actually anyway. So, all right, so what we're going to do is go up to Select now, and Quick Select Set, and grab the whatever Quick Select Set we've made before. So to create these again, it's just Create, Sets, and Quick Select Set, then you access them in the Select Quick Select Sets menu here. So grab that, and it's going to actually select all of those original faces, all of those original edges, and then you just hit Delete. And what you're left with now is a cylinder, which is like pretty much the same looking almost, except instead of having vertical and horizontal polys, we have this weird sort of diagonal setup going like this. This is what's going to give you the nice looking arrangement of your knurling. So at this point, what we should be able to do is just select all of these faces, go to Extrude, and this is the trick that I did before, in case you weren't aware. So normally with Extrude, it's just going to grab all the faces and sort of keep them together. There's an option in this little pop-up thingy for keep faces together, and if you turn that off, what it's going to do is basically perform numerous different extrude operations for every single face. So in this case, it's really, really helpful. So we can scale all these down individually and move them out, and you can make some really like weird sort of furry patterns like this if you want to. I don't actually recommend doing that for fur, but so you're able to modify these sort of separately and scale these. What I'd actually recommend doing if you think you might need to come back and mess with this later is going into basically creating another quick select set for these faces. So we can just save that, and that way we can go by and be like, cool, we have this nice little knurling pattern. And again, this isn't really designed to smooth for two reasons. One, it's pretty darn high poly, and two, it ends up looking like kind of like weird little polka dots when you smooth it, rather than the traditional sort of metal knurling. But what we can do now is go in and just grab that upper edge and just extrude it and, you know, finish making whatever tool you were making before. I'm thinking like a lot of times like little sculpting tools or like they'll have this sort of pattern on it. But this works for other shapes other than cylinders. It's just, you know, really how you decide to use it. And the reason that I said it's not a bad idea to save that little quick select set for those little faces is like maybe we've decided, okay, this is not quite what I'm going for. I want these to be slightly different shape. You can go back in, grab the faces, and again, it's gone through and selected all of those, and you can scale them. So in this case, there's only so much functionality you can do in world or object mode. So if you open up your tool settings and just set this to component for axis orientation, it's going to treat all of these faces like basically the lag is real. What it's going to do is allow you to modify all the faces individually like we did originally with the extrude handle. So you can see I'll just sort of scale these individually. You can pull them, if you set your translate tool settings to component, you should be able to pretty much pull them straight out of your object along the normals. So it's very easy to go back and modify this after the fact. The other thing you can do is if you need these to be, maybe we don't actually want this sort of like little square face on the edge. Maybe we want this to be like an actual point or like a pointy stud or something like that. So what we can do is I just Control Z to select the faces. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll scale these down so they're like super crazy close together. And I'm just gonna run an edit mesh and merge on these. And what that should theoretically do, if we mess with this distance threshold, is it should merge all of those faces together. So instead of having a face, these just come up into a little point at the end. So there's a bunch of different ways you can sort of use this. I'll show you a strawberry for grins. It's not gonna be a gorgeous strawberry, but it will, you know, be some sort of strawberry. But you can do this, like I said, on pretty much any model. I've just found this to be a really convenient way to make this pattern. And you can still see like a little bit of faceting up here, but it's like not terrible, question mark. So I usually just kind of leave it. But yeah, so that's knurling. I'll do a quickie bonus video for a strawberry and then carry on.